I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey guys, welcome again. Short and sweet, guys. We are back with 2 more new episodes. Welcome to the afternoon for Space Force. First, we're going to go ahead and cover episode 3. Mark and Mallory go to Washington. Great episode, possibly one of my favorites. I feel like I say that about every episode, but I really mean it. And of course, we're doing episode 4 as well, but we'll get into that later. For episode 3, we're talking the Armed Service Committee, because that was the bulk of the episode. Mallory's loyalty, and of course, Angela, Ollie, and Diana's budding friendship, which was nice to see. But first, my name is Tatiana Marisa, and I'm so excited to be here. And I have Kevin Allen, who loves all things Greg Daniels. Yes.
Yes. And we'll get into that in our news segment.
Ooh, good. Juicy and amazing. Okay, so episode 3, overall thoughts. Kevin, let me know what you think.
I'm right there with you that this was, I would predict will be my favorite episode. Like, obviously, it's just getting better as it goes on, but there's something about, like, the Mr. Smith goes to Washington motif I really liked. And
yes, you nailed it. That's exactly what it is. Yes.
Yeah, and the whole scene was really entertaining from Steve Carell's performance as General Nard, and then when John Malkovich came in with his really poignant truth, I was like, okay, I got a little bit of that too. So I got a both of what I like, and I was just very satisfied by the end of it.
Good. I feel like a lot of these episodes are, instead of having a lot of different moving parts like the first episod was, it seems it's very centralized around one focus. And yes. That doesn't normally happen in comedies, or at least the comedies that I watch. There's like a lot of things. You move from here, you jump to here, you jump to here, and you have like, 4 storylines going on at once. So this is nice. We are focused on one thing, and we spend the bulk of the episode on just this one segment of the story, which I really like. It lets me focus completely on what's at hand. So I'm a fan of that. That's what I liked. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about the Armed Services Committee. This was a very big time for Nard and Mallory, because as you know, they go to Washington and they have to ask for more funding. 150% increase in the budget for Space Force. Yeah. That is an insane amount of increase with, again, well, they have something to show for it, but it wasn't fantastic.
Yeah, and it wasn't already like $6 billion?
Yes.
So we know the funding they're asking for is at least $9 billion, plus however much it took to build that campus or whatever. Like,
right, exactly. It's insanity.
Yeah, a little bit. I kind of was with the committee for most of that hearing.
Annabella had it right.
Yeah, the whole, like, the $10,000 orange, like, I get it. I get what Nard was saying with that whole speech, and it was a nice, touching thing, but there has to be a way to do it for less than $10,000.
But if you pull on the heartstrings of America, they're in your pocket.
I mean, I can't argue with that. Like,
I mean, that's what he did, and I really thought that Mallory was not going to pull through. I thought that he was going to hold out and just kind of let Mark make a fool of himself, which he did for a long time. We have the classic comedy of Steve Carell in there, trying to get his pencil on the desk, tap 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 tap.
Just say his name. We all know what you're doing. Just say his name.
It's sad though, because he could have said, I am in close talks with a very prestigious doctor, and this is what he has to say about everything. And, that's all basically that Mallory was asking for. And he just couldn't do it.
I still don't understand, like, why. I get when he was going in, like, I want to look super cool. So if I need you to jump on, like, and act like we got single mind going, then you'll do that. But after the 5th tap tap, like, I was like, just turn and call him out. We all know it's his turn to talk, and he's not doing it, so just turn and call him out on it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's definitely a sense of pride thing. This is like a
Oh, so
reoccurring thing of
foolish.
Mark's character. Like he feels like he has to assert himself as his authority and all of that. Like he has to prove it.
Yes.
And he's just, up on his own pride. But one thing that I loved his heartfelt speech. I
Mhm.
was suckered in and was like, sure, spend $10,000 on an orange,
If
do it.
if Nard has a gift, it's those kind of moments, like the
Absolutely.
heart strong speech. Yeah, no,
Definitely.
he convinced me too that that man needs an orange,
Right?
but there's just got to be a cheaper way.
I agree with you. There has to be a cheaper way. Absolutely. But when it comes to, the congressman, I neglected to write down his name. But he was the one that kept saying that the world is flat. It's a rectangle.
Yeah. Oh
He
God.
was
Of course,
like,
there's a flat earther on the Space Force Oversight Committee.
there has to be. They exist. They're out
Jeez.
there. It
Yeah,
has to
fair and
be.
balanced. You have to have everyone's opinions acknowledged.
Right, exactly. But he
We'll
didn't
weigh the
even
pros and cons.
question. He didn't even question what he needed the money for. Didn't need proof. He was just like, "This sounds good to me. Take however much money you want, and it's totally fine." But one thing that I do like that Mark said was, "We are putting people's lives at risk in the pursuit of science to solve our many problems." And right as he said that, which is very poignant, and I think is a very true moment in that scene, a group of protesters storm in for, to protest women's rights, basically, I'm assuming. And so it was freedom of speech and all of that. But it just goes to show that that is exactly what's happening right now.
Oh yeah. No,
And
there's so much happening in America and in Washington that yeah, things are going to get shuffled around and people are going to get confused because there's the numerous causes that are all dire and important right now. They just keep compounding and overlapping each other.
they do. And there's so many protests going on for so many different things that they got the wrong room. Oh no,
Yeah.
that protest is on Wednesday. Oh,
Yeah.
shoot.
There's a lot going on right now.
There is a lot going on. What did you think about when Mark was basically, do you think that he was telling the truth in his speech asking for 150% increase? Or do you think he was just kind of pulling it out of his butt in the moment to get what he wanted?
Um, oh, about the orange? No, I feel that we talked about this a little in last episode. Is that the one virtue that you can't deny about General Nard is that he has heart. He cares. Like he may be inept and incompetent and have no idea what he's doing, and he may have the tough bravado and that whole military like frontier and facade or whatever. Those are not the right words, but it's all that comes to mind because I'm focusing on his virtue, which is that despite everything, he is a man who cares. He cares about his family. He cares about the people he works with. He cared about the chimpstronaut and the dogstronaut. And the people who he works with, the men and women who support him and have the same respect and devotion to their country as he does, he wants them to be in good hands. So I totally agree with that part of his case. But as far as the number, I don't know where they got that number.
It's an insane, what is he going to do with that?
I don't know because so much of it was redacted, and I know it's not science forward. So that's just the thing. I was like, dude, I want to give you the support that the Space Force needs, but you gotta check those numbers. Like you blew up a rocket that cost 4 middle schools worth, and you had no idea it cost that much.
Exactly.
So there's got to be some fine tuning that can be done with that budget.
And that's where Annabella comes in. She had it right. She asked the right questions. She was on top of him about how am I going to tell this to my constituents? You're expending $10,000 on an orange. This is absurd. They're on food stamps. How are we going to justify this? Which they definitely need team players, Mark and Mallory, together, which brings me to my next point was Mallory's loyalty. I was wondering whether or not he was actually going to throw Mark under the bus.
I feel like Mallory is a perfect foil for Mark because I feel like they have the same kind of flaws, but just that are portrayed differently. Like they show themselves in different ways. He had the same kind of pride that Mark had about not calling on his name, but his way of like showing that was to not. I am man, I'm not good with the brain right now.
We
Okay, so
watched a lot
Mark,
of TV today.
yeah, that's the problem. I'm binging the show straight up, and it's great. Okay, so Mark like was so proud that he didn't want to call upon the help from Mallory. Mallory was too proud to offer it to Mark and just straight up. The same way that Mark cares about his people, though, I think Mallory does as well. They both care about the people they work with and the grand cause that is the end. Not trying to say like ends justify the means kind of thing, but they both want Space Force to succeed because they both have the best interests of America and the people that Space Force is designed to protect at heart. Mm-hmm. They're just both stubborn about everything in their own unique ways. So it didn't surprise me that he spoke up when it mattered. I feel like that's his character. He is resigned to let Mark make a fool of himself, but when it comes down to something important, he'll probably step in and solve it for Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I agree with you, and I feel like after he heard Mark's speech, that Mark actually cared about what they were doing there. He actually was deeply invested in it, more than, just this is my authority and listen to me and just don't say anything until I give you a signal. It's all very demeaning how he talks to him. And so I like, because he kept looking at him as he was talking, the things that he was saying. It was kind of like he thought, oh, you really think that? Okay. Oh, you really think that? Well, maybe I can get on board with this, Yeah,
and at the very least, I don't think he expects anything better of the Air Force.
Yeah.
It's the same old chauvinistic boys club, no matter what department he's under. And at least with Mark, the guy's not making offers behind people's backs.
Exactly. And that says, that's a huge thing to say. Like that shows a man's character right there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into Angela, Allie, and Diana's budding friendship. I did not expect them to pursue a friendship at all. I mean, I guess I shouldn't call it a friendship. It's an acquaintance. Like she was basically asked to babysit his daughter for a day, which she's totally overqualified for. And I love how she mentioned that. But I like that they were able to confide in each other, or rather, I like that Diana was able to confide in Angela, because she is so alone, so incredibly alone. And we get to see beyond this, I'm a teenager, I'm upset attitude, and really see, a reason behind everything. And in all reality, she has a lot going on. What did you think about their exchange throughout the day?
I liked it. I mean, it was fun to watch. Very odd couple kind of scenario. I guess I just, in the tradition of television, I expected it to have a more saccharine finish and be something really tied up neatly in a bow. And it was like, no, these are just people who just like learn to be like, oh yeah, that person's kind of cool. I didn't know him before today. There's something about Greg Daniels' writing, and maybe this is because I'm fresh off of Upload, in which there was another strong female authoritarian figure, not authoritarian, but authoritative figure, who still like spoke very colloquially and wasn't afraid to have personality. Like a character that is a military lieutenant, I believe.
Yes.
It's so easy to write that character and have them be kind of rigid and terse and speak just kind of like straightforward with no real sense of identity. And this character was not that. And especially, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong on this, I don't see a lot of Black female characters across television who get to speak freely and have the personality that is so uniquely Black and female.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that on television, first of all, to see it as a military character, I just thought it was like, oh, this is delightful. Like, I would not expect television to have that.
Right.
So I just loved seeing that. It made that whole those scenes entertaining and fun for me, because I'm not like part of that community like at all. And then pairing her, someone with a lot of great personality, who's very comfortable in this what is normally a rigid and fixed institution, paired with someone who's being very rigid and fixed and quiet, who she's got like nose rings and she's in high school and usually has that rebellious, big personality kind of attitude that you would expect from that character. Just something about this dynamic was really fun.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it, but it was just cool to watch on TV.
It's the openness of Angela's personality, because she gets it. She's older. She's been a teenager. She understands at least some of what she's going through. And so I think her willingness to be completely open and not ask for an explanation from Diana made a huge difference and made Diana like open up in certain ways, that she hasn't been able to because she doesn't have any friends and her mom is gone. So, there's no real female figure for her to bond with at the moment. And Angela is probably offering that. So I hope we get to see more of their relationship. I mean, I'm sure it's not the season's not going to dive wholly into it, because it is like definitely a side story, but I'm sure that we'll see them again. And, it'll be good. I think it'll be really good. So I'm excited to see where that takes us. Because I definitely liked it.
Well, I at the very least really like that character who's Lieutenant Ali. Oh, I had it right here, and now her name is escaping me.
Oh, did I write
always
it down?
I always have to back
Tawny Newsome.
That's her character's name?
Oh, excuse me. Angela Ali is the
It
character.
is, okay. It is Lieutenant Ali. Okay.
Played by Tawny Newsome is her name. Yeah.
I like seeing her because she, like I said, she started when we first met her. She was just she was the chopper pilot, and she was pretty much just doing her job. And now, like, we get to see her just in her sweats and open up as a fully realized character. I was like, oh, this is great. And I want to see that as well with, here I go again, bad with names, Mark's daughter,
Diana.
Thank you. She's been closed off the entire time we've seen her, and I really want her to open up, and I want her to be herself, whatever form that takes. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that dynamic continuing.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Let's move on to episode 4, Lunar Habitat. Totally. I think that this episode was a widely like a character building episode for so many reasons. And I think it addressed a lot of issues. Again, I mean, all of them do, but addressed some issues that are unspoken of or like glanced over today with people who, how they deal with things. Because this is basically like one big therapy session.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. I was thinking quarantine the whole time. You gotta go and stay in one room with these 3 people for a week. And I was like, oh no, not a week.
I wasn't even thinking quarantine. That's how used to quarantine I am that I wasn't even thinking like, oh, this is so like quarantine, whatever, a week. But yeah, but you're totally right. It parallels quarantine very much so, but just shorter. So I like that Naird looks at this episode 4, he looks at this lunar habitat as like a mini vacation. He doesn't even bat an eye.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this will be nice, because he's running away from all these problems that he has.
Well, so one of the first observations I made about Naird was that he is a very regimented man in a chaotic world. They announced at the very top of the show to Diana, like, that, well, why is the the press hearing so small or the ceremony so small? He goes, oh, it's a new administration. It's a little chaotic. And then later that night, we see him like tucking in his sheets when he's just getting up for a glass of water in the middle of the night. So, yeah, Diana, again, at the top of this episode, being a total slob. Like, that's one thing at my quarantine time, I've been like really like, okay, I got to get the home in order because I have to deal with it constantly now.
Yeah, totally.
And I can't go run away to a lunar base for a week to get away from it all. So I kind of like got his perspective there, just like, you know what? She needs to be taught some discipline. And I thought that's what the whole episode was going to be. I thought it was just him going to be teaching these people how to be disciplined inside of a confined space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it was a vacation for him, but like, only in the sense that he had less responsibility while he was away.
Yeah. He had and I think that's what he wanted. You know, he didn't want to have to answer to his wife. He didn't want to have to, he didn't want to have to deal with his wife being in prison because he doesn't really answer to her. He didn't want to have to deal with, like you said, you know, his daughter being so messy and then showing him complete disrespect. My mom I would be dead.
Yeah, right? I was like, oh my God. I couldn't believe she was getting away with it.
Yeah, I would not be alive today on this show if I talked to my mother.
Military dad.
Yeah, like, no way. And then, of course, he has his office problems. So, you know, it put him in a different atmosphere. He just thought, I just don't have to answer to anybody. But I like how when he gets there, he seems to offer a different perspective on emotional stability. You know, he's entering an atmosphere where they have to record how they feel on a daily basis and things that bother them and why they can't sleep and like maybe their dreams and stuff like that. And he is just like, this is ridiculous. You know, this is stupid. I'm sorry. You said that. And then he was referencing all the stuff that he's been through, you know, not saying that either one is right or wrong, but it is offering a very different perspective on how people deal with emotion. What did you think about the dynamic in the Lunar Habitat?
I mean, I think it was a great one to explore. I think it was a healthy conversation that people need to have or keep in mind. He comes from a perspective where you're like, you check your baggage at the door. Mm-hmm. He's looking at this experience as a mission, that he has to stay there a week, fulfill an assignment that someone else was supposed to do to get the job done. He's not fully aware that the job is to be in touch with your emotions, but coming at it with that attitude, and he's setting his emotions aside. He's setting his like well-being aside for the sake of the greater goal. So I don't think I mean, even though it came off as this, like, you guys don't know what tough is attitude, or this is what a real problem looks like. It was just, that's where he was raised, in that there are things that need to be dealt with, and sometimes your insecurities or whatever aren't that. But the nature of this mission is to be very aware of your behavior, your feelings, and everything. And he's completely dismissing that. So by having this attitude that he's coming in with, you could check your baggage at the door. Well, no, sometimes the baggage is what matters. Sometimes that is the point, and you need it in order to accomplish the mission. So when he ran off later and was like, no, it doesn't matter how I'm feeling, it doesn't matter what my emotions are, like, I just need to go for a jog or whatever. It's like, this is one of those times where you need to be aware of yourself and obviously others. So it was two very opposing perspectives, kind of learning to appreciate one another and find value in one another. And that's absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I totally echo that. And, you know, I was thinking about it in retrospect, like Mark has done so much on his own. Just about what we know of him, you know, with his wife going into prison, whenever that happened, now he's raising a daughter by himself. And, you know, when they revived him from him fainting in the desert, He went off on stories of his, what he did in the war and certain things that happened there. And then he did it. He said, I was alone. I had to do it alone, And now was given the task of manning this whole Space Force. And he has people around him, but pretty much, I think he feels like his leadership he feels alone in that as well. Even though, I mean, he has definitely resources to help him, but in retrospect, he's done so much on his own. He's forgotten exactly how to rely on people or how to ask for help. And, all of this was like the therapy session that he needed completely.
That's a really good point, because I'm now thinking back to the first episode where he was trying to reel in his parents. He's like in charge of managing them, even though they had a caretaker there. So he was solving that problem, and he was solving his daughter's math problem. That he fancies himself Mr. Fix-It. So I think in his mind, in order to have that job, he can't be broken. And there has to be a problem and he has to be the only one to solve it. Yeah. That's a really good point you're making.
He definitely has that mentality. And even like his wife echoes it when Diana goes to see her mom in prison and is like, imagine how your dad must feel. You guys have to stick together. She was offering a fresh perspective to a teenage girl, which is so hard. I was talking to my my husband about being a teenager yesterday. Like a lot of teenagers, some teenagers just get it, but like, you remember when you were a teenager, like you can't see beyond this. Like you are so wrapped up in school and high school, what's in front of you. You don't really think about your parents as people who are also learning as well. You just think like, oh, these are my parents, they're my caregivers, and like it doesn't go beyond that. So she's very, yeah, they got it figured out. They got life. Yeah, life is figured out for them when it's like totally the opposite. So I like that she was able to talk to her mom, and her mom was able to say, your dad feels lonely, make sure to be there for him, and so do you, and you guys are supposed to be a team here. It's not the most perfect dynamic, but it is what it is. So I like that. And I love seeing Lisa Kudrow again. They don't give her enough screen time. I'm just going to put that out there because I am like such a huge fan of her. So that is that. Yeah, we like sped through those 2 episodes.
Well, I want to make one more point about, and just bouncing right off what you were saying. When I started watching that episode, Lunar Habitat, I was like, oh, like I said, this episode is just going to be Nard whipping people into shape. He couldn't do it with his daughter, so he's just going to take it out on these other 3. And it paid off. Like his tidiness habits paid off in their community. I don't think we saw it on screen, but like I can only imagine, because I'm living in quarantine, that it did have an effect, and they got to do their jobs. And so I thought that's what the show was trying to say. Like that was gonna be the moral of the episode. But when he came home and he started tidying up her party mess, and she's like, I brought ice cream, and he just dropped the bag, and like it wasn't about that anymore. And I was like, oh, I get the larger lesson here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm basically just reaffirming exactly what you already said, but I thought that was a really nice conclusion for those 2 characters. Nobody was right, nobody was wrong, but they had each other, and that's all that really mattered.
Yeah, and that echoes the end of episode 2, when he comes home and like helps her with her math homework.
Yeah,
that was him being there for her, and she came home with. Go for it. Yeah.
No, you're about to say it.
She comes home with the ice cream for him, and this is one of the memories that was like keeping him stable, I guess, when he was asleep, was him putting whipped cream on top of her ice cream.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh.
So as he's thinking back to, I know, the tears on the heart. He's thinking back to a simpler time before all of this happened, and so I really like those heartfelt moments that they keep ending with. So I don't find them cliche at all. I love them.
No, it was a wonderful aversion for his character, like letting him be fixed and now that you've pointed out the ice cream dynamic there, I was like, okay, that was the best way to do it.
Yeah, totally. Man, this show just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that we're binging it. It's good. Okay, along with that, let's go into our news and gossip.
All right.
Excited for it.
Well, since you mentioned that there's a lot going on and protests are abundant right now in our time, there's no denying it. We all are aware.
Yeah.
I thought I'd pull up a story I came across recently about Steve Carell. He's joining a long list of celebrities who have been making donations to the, I want to make sure I get this right, the Minnesota Freedom Fund. The Minnesota Freedom Fund is a nonprofit that helps pay bail for individuals who don't have the means to do so, and they've been focusing a lot of attention on protesters happening with Minnesota in regards to George Floyd's murder. And I mean, it's Steve Carell. I want to make sure I get everybody right. It's so many. Seth Rogen, Janelle Monáe, Don Cheadle. It just goes on and on and on. Jamila Jamil, love her. So there's this growing, if it's a trend, awesome, with the Minnesota Freedom Fund, and Steve Carell he's just made the news for being a part of that. And I just think that's super cool and deserves attention.
Absolutely.
And I'll come back with the story I was going to tell next episode.
Oh, all right. You're
There's
teasing
plenty
us.
of news going on with this cast. It's such a big cast. How can it not?
I mean, yeah, and everybody keeps coming back, but yet I don't feel pulled in all these different storylines. So that's one of the things I like about it.
Well, and like you mentioned that earlier, that it's typical for sitcoms, especially, to follow the Herald format where there's an A plot and a B plot and they eventually intersect. But this one is just it's focused.
Yeah.
Like the military. Yeah.
Oh, good. No, stick with that. That was on purpose, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
I just made that up. Yeah. It was
no, it works.
Made it up
for
the congressional committee. Yeah.
Can we do a special segment?
Oh, yes, we can.
Amazing. Okay,
because we went through episode 4 and we, like you said, we did it quickly because we skipped over a really significant part of episode 4, and that's them uniforms, though. Oh my God!
How did I forget
uniforms?
How did I forget the uniforms?
Can we talk about those for a smidge?
Yes, let's.
Loved that.
That was my misstep. That I didn't even put those in my notes. I think I was just thinking out loud when I was watching.
Well, we're so invested in the actual story of the episode. I guess there was a B plot for this one that had nothing to do with the A plot, which is just. General Gregory, Don Lake's character, just running around trying to get Ben Schwartz to stop promoting Flotus's designs for the uniforms.
Which I don't blame him. It was out of England. It looks like they came from England / the 50s with this cape and the hat.
I think it was 18th century French or Prussian military uniforms. They were involved.
There were
lots of embroidery, buttons along the double-breasted kind of. I don't know what the word is. I'm not a fashionista like Flotus, I guess. But yeah, those were some interesting uniforms. And I think my favorite part, there were the main 3 that we got to see in the episode that were shown off by our lieutenants and such. But then when General Nard came back, and I was like, oh, he doesn't see it. He doesn't see it because they're just littered everywhere. And every cadet had a different style going on. He passed the first 2 that looked like they were villains in a sci-fi movie with branding written across.
That's why I was
black and red.
Confused. Yeah, I was confused when I saw that, and I thought they weren't wearing that before. I thought, what kind of is this? Is this what they settled on? I wondered if that's what. But then, of course, as he continues to walk through, you see everybody in the background wearing all these different costumes.
Yeah, it went from NASCAR look to the French fashion to the English the beef eaters back in the, it was just, there were so many looks. I couldn't keep them straight. And they were all uniquely terrible. And it got me thinking, what does the Space Force's uniform look like? It's such a new branch. Yeah. And I know they have a flag and they have a seal, but I had no idea what the uniforms look like. So I looked it up.
No way. So wait, just to preface, our special segment is called Space Force fact check. All right. So some of the things in here are drawn from real life things. So we wanted to fact check to see what exactly is true and what is just satirical. So please.
Yeah. So, well, I kept mentioning last episode that there was a real life space launch this past weekend. Hopefully I'll get to touch more on that. So, but it got me thinking about, okay, what else is happening in the real world that's related to this show? And there are uniforms. These were, I think, I don't know when they were all unveiled, but around December of last year. So first we're going to look at General John Raymond, the current leader of the Space Force. He's dressed in the dress uniform, which is dress blues. So it's dress blacks on our show. It's blue, very similar as far as I know to the Air Force. And right along that bandwagon, we're going to look at another photo of him in the occupational camouflage pattern. It's a close-up. This is what they debuted on Twitter, of course.
Of course.
In December.
Where's that,
it's a pattern. Right? I'm like, oh my God, this is all real. This is the pattern that the Army debuted several years ago and that the Air Force started using more recently. But the difference is the Space Force uses dark blue on their name tapes, whereas the Army uses black and the Air Force uses, and this is real, spice brown. When they unveiled these uniforms, a lot of people were like, why on earth would you go with ground camouflage for the Army for Space Force? Like, I saw in the promotional images, like the lunar camouflage that the uniforms for our show wear. I'm like, that doesn't look bad. Like, just for theming. The reason why is it's a time and money saver. Two services are already using it. Like I said, the Army and the Air Force. And you're like, why are the Air Force using it? Same thing. And this is the official quote. Space Force members control and protect assets in space, but are not in space.
Got it.
So that's why, yeah. The Navy apparently got in trouble a couple of years ago because they decided to redo their camouflage blue. It was called like aquaflage. And they blended in with the water, but they didn't blend in with the boats that they were actually standing on. So it kind of defeated the purpose. And I was like, right. Oh. So I guess real life Space Force is actually making more practical decisions, I guess. I don't know. It's too early to tell. And the last two photos I've got, and this is the ones I thought were interesting, are the cadets. The first graduation ceremony for 2020 happened with the Air Force cadets. And this is what they wear, these the blue and white with the silver sash. But on the right side of this photo, there are some wearing the gold sash, and those are our space cadets. They're wearing the exact same uniform as the Air Force, just with gold sash to trump the silver sash of the Air Force. And my final photo is them at their graduation ceremony. Yeah, that one took me by surprise. I was like, well, they have a silver sash. We'll do a gold one.
I mean, I guess it makes sense for a money saver to just do the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they were thrown right into it, just like Nard was. Like, okay, you're doing this now. And
right.
I didn't realize there's so much that they have to decide on. There's the uniforms, the flag, the patch, the seal. Yeah. They have to have a song and a motto.
They have to have a song.
That every branch has an official song. And
that I did not know.
Yeah, me neither. So we're gonna. Hopefully I'll get a chance to look for what the Space Force song is. But I want to see what this show does first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How come we haven't seen a song yet? Hopefully we'll be able to see a song by the end of, the season.
Oh, it just occurred to me. I was talking about Fred Willard's Space Force last episode. Yeah. They had a theme song. And I forget how it goes. It's so bad. It's so bad. But I remember ending it with, "We're Space Force, we're all you got."
We're all you got. Maybe they'll adapt that. I mean, that would be a nice, Fred tribute, I think. If they adapted that song to this one, that would be cool. That would be cool.
United States military should honor Fred Willard by using his canceled 1978 Pilots TV anthem as their official song.
That's it. I'm writing a letter. It's going out tomorrow. It's done.
Oh, I might be able to answer all these questions on our next special segment.
Okay. I am so excited. I'm excited
Okay.
for what you
All right.
found. I can't wait. We will be back in an hour, literally, to discuss the next 2 episodes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I had to count there. Okay, but before we go, Kevin, where can we find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Kevin Allen Says, Instagram at Kevin Allen Graham.
And my name is Tatiana Marisa. You can find me at Tatiana Marisa on all social media platforms. An hour from now, we will have so much more in store for you. Until then, watch the next 2 episodes. Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.